Thank you for clicking on this video. I hope you enjoy. And if you do, then don't forget to like and subscribe. Ring that notification bell so you stay up to date on further content. Ah, I see you made it. Welcome aboard the USS Shadow Star. I'm Captain Richard, also known as the Renegade, and of course, this is my ship. Welcome to all of you captains, lieutenants, lieutenant commanders, it doesn't matter what rank you are, nor what faction you're with, be it Federation, Dominion or Romulan. Welcome to this Starship visual review video within Star Trek Online. That's right, this is a visual review video where we'll be breaking down the visual aesthetics, vanity aesthetics, and customization of a specific ship. Stutter. Now if you want the stats, I'm afraid you're in the wrong place. You need to go over to our mirror counterpart. To reach her, well, check out below in the description, or wait till the end of this video, there will be links for you there. But, as for now, allow me to introduce this interesting ship that combines the visual aesthetics of a crossfield and a magi. Allow me to introduce the SOMERVILLE class intelligence science vessel, which, bearing in mind that name, obviously has a lot of design links, I would guess, to the intelligence science vessel from the Delta expansion, the Scry class. Though this one is very different, seeing as it is an evolution of a previously known aesthetic. Speaking of, the SOMERVILLE has some interesting customization standpoints, seeing as she is patterned from the Hernandez class. As you can see, a very refined, albeit slightly bulbous nacelle design lineage from the NX to the Discovery era, I would say. I specifically say those two because as much as those facades could easily be Discovery to TOS, it is the NX that refined red before TOS did, and timeline wise, I should probably state there. And you've also got the fact that this ship still holds on to Discovery period cues, such as the red warp coils, whereas they would be later lost as you go into the TOS design aesthetic. But, with this being said, the SOMERVILLE and the Hernandez do have cross-compatible parts, allowing for good, albeit interesting, customization options, which we'll start off with. For example, the Hernandez has a much more thinned out hull. So if you was to use the outer hull of the Hernandez, you'd notice it becomes much thinner in comparison to its counterpart, the SOMERVILLE. This, of course, has its own effects. You could, in essence, call this at that design point, I can't help but say this, looking at the way it's designed now, to me, it's a mobile station. I know that's bad to say, and hell, if it was huge, I really would call it a mobile space station. But it's not. And as much as I do want to jokingly call this Mobile 9, which would probably be the first thing I do to it, this is still just a based science vessel. Some of the more fun bits though you can have though is if you use the Hernandez inner hull, which is, as you can see, much wider. Although thinned out, it is wider than the SOMERVILLE's one. If you use the SOMERVILLE outer, you end up with what a lot of people will be a fix. As quite happily for many of you people, I'm sure, there are now no holes or void space between sections of the hull, which I know a lot of people don't like. So you can, in essence, fix that. You just end up with a really odd design choice though with the ship. Either way, I do like the fact that you can have a little bit of fun building this ship, and I'm sorry, like that, it just looks like it's a blimp. It might just be me, but I honestly feel like this ship is designed to be sort of stuck in atmosphere more than anything else. It's, well, that one more than anything else. But it also gives me a few thoughts that this ship could land on water. Speaking of land, how about we land on this epic part? 21 different hull options. 21. Your 6 Discovery era hull, which all have their own little indents and accent cues. The Intelligence hull, which I think is great to see. This is actually directly pulled across, I believe, from the intelligence vessels that we got with Discovery expansion. The Scry, Eclipse and Phantom classes, which is nice to see it here. And as many of you may have already noticed, it's essentially the Terran reputation shields without additional glows or light up points, which is quite nice to see. You got the base standard ones. I'm not going to lie, Type 5 again is one of my favourites as per usual, though I have been specifically taken by the look of the Type 8 on this ship. I do feel like it's a very nice robust appearance. And for those that really want a nice little plated touch, or maybe smooth to touch, we of course have Type 0, the TOS hull type. Works better on the Hernandez though. With this being said, plenty of customization options and whoa. I was about to say 7 window types, but there's 8. There are 8 window types as well for you. A lot going on customization wise. It's not a bad thing. Now I do want to take this chance to state though, as we go back into basically visual space, this ship has got a very interesting design in the fact that, yes, like I've said before, it seems to be similar to the Magi class, except for instead of having the nacelles brought in, the nacelles are actually brought out on pylons. And the way its saucer is actually designed, it's actually reminiscent of the Discovery saucer. Makes me wonder if any of it could actually spin, but looking at it, I would say not. Perhaps this one doesn't need to though. This intelligent science vessel makes use of spore drive technology, maybe using a different form of tech, as we have a very interesting visual acuity in the middle of the saucer, which would normally have the 2 rotating discs around it. So I can't help but notice on that. However, the first thing I do want to bring up on is something I've joked about already, and that's this ship to me looks like it lands on water. It might just be me, but if you take a serious look at its visual acuities, put a huge sail on it, and it would remind me of a racing yacht. With the 2 nacelles being, I can't remember what they're called, but they essentially 2 hull types that stand either side of essentially a very flat plane or very flat deck. So yeah, this ship, I think that's actually a really good cue to start off with, actually, because of that shape. It does feel fast to me, and this ship is actually one of the fastest moving science vessels you can get, along with the Scry. I also like how it has these fins on it, which again make me feel like this ship is meant to be in atmosphere a bit more. Something is offering me this ship as far as space goes, because yes, it's a starship, but it feels like it's designed to be within atmosphere in some degrees. Mind you, might have wanted to thin out the hull a little bit more, a little bit less. Pounding against air resistance might have been a good thing. But if we go from the base details and onto the actual high detail points, well, shape aside, I mean, let's go back to the blue glows in the center that I've briefly touched on. So I've got an essence and theory, and I want to know what you guys think on it too. With the Discovery, or the Crossfield class, Discovery, or Spore Drive refit, should I say, they had 2/4, depending on how you view it, moving discs. These discs moved against each other, clockwise and counterclockwise, in order to generate the particle field, or the mycelial field, that would then allow the ship to jump. It is my theory that they've refined this technology with help of Stamets, or the Stamets AI, to create this new, what we see as almost warp coil looking, but I believe they are actually mycelium coils that generate the field within that section of the saucer. The way they work being to create very high output charged particles that don't necessarily have to spin anymore, but simply get exhausted into that area. I'm going to say exhausted or expelled into that region, clouds up around the ship, and then in a huge burst jumps the ship, entering the mycelium network. Then it maintains a steady flow of flight until it reaches its point of origin, where it then pushes itself back out of the network. That is my theory of how this is meant to work, or looks like it's meant to work. Beyond that point though, I'm not really sure what to take on it. I like the fact that it's a really high refined detail zone. The only thing I don't like on it is just how large it is. I feel like the main saucer and it itself should have all been thinned out a little bit. But I see what they were going with. I think I understand exactly what they were going for here. With the bulbous size, it's having plenty of space for the research and exploration side of things for this ship. And she is meant to refine the true values of Starfleet. Therefore, this is a research, exploration, and defensive starship. She is not combative. Far from it. And on that subject, we perhaps should actually extend now to her weapons array. Give me 2 seconds. My throat was getting dry. So, as we can see on this ship, she has some very interesting point of calls for weapons array. Specifically, right on the nose of the ship. I'm sure some of you noticed it already. You can tell this ship isn't actually that big by the size of them, but you can see phaser strips. Large phaser strips compared to the ship's size. So you know that this ship is actually relatively small. You can also take from its windows that it's not too big of a ship. The only problem I've got is the windows are actually still relatively small, which makes the ship feel bigger. So they're either very large phaser strips, or this ship is very small. But, fundamentally speaking, This ship has a very unusual phaser strip on the nose, with that, what I want to call a sensor pallet, or a sensor point, maybe even a tractor beam. It's interesting to see that there. It is also stationed on these two connecting pylon points between the inner and outer hull, which is also below the ship as well. That makes 6 of them in total. 3 on top, 3 below. I reversed direction, I was looking as I said that, pardon me. Now my only issue with it is, as much as 2 seem to be sitting on vents, one of them is sitting right on top of a phaser strip. So it makes me wonder what they actually are. When I initially looked at them, I thought they were shield generators or sensory points. Now, the only thing I can imagine them to be is mycelium anomaly generators. However, those that know this ship know that the mycelium anomaly doesn't generate in that manner. In fact, it is relinquished from the nacelles / impulse array. The raw fact that it comes from this area is my biggest question. Since those anomalies are generated from them, with the mycelium release, I am left questioning what on earth those blue spheres could be. They must be something to do with the weapons, but I'm not quite sure what. Continuing on with the weapons, as I seem to be a little bit sidetracked here and confusing myself, let's really talk about how well armed this ship is. Bearing in mind, this is a ship of exploration and research. This is not a warship, combative ship in any sense. You could even say this is another variant of Oberth, Nova, or Miranda class. Miranda without the roll bar, should I say. So, on the forward section of this ship, we will see that it is armed quite well. 2 strips on either nacelle, short little strips. 2 longer strips on the front of the saucer, and 1 at the nose of the ship, making 5 strips in total on the top of the ship, 1 strip being special in some manner. This is almost copied underneath. However, the strip on the underside of the nacelles is more centralized, leading to 3 forward and 1 central heading back on the underside. Again, with one of those special strips existing. Now, if we go towards the back of the ship, we'll take a look at what I do refer to as some of the more interesting points. She has only 2 on the underside, and as you can see, there is no other points at the back there on the underside. But going above, she has 2 on top and 2 on the back of the nacelles, or 1 on the back of even nacelle, leaving to 4 on top, 2 on the side. So yeah, she isn't overly armed. This gives her in total, is it 10, 14 strips. 14 phaser strips is not too bad. Now, I know some of you are probably saying, well, hang on, there's some on the pylons here and some on the dead center of the saucer, but I've taken note of the fact that the strips in this ship have got the red outlining, or red pinstriping around them, so we know that the ones on the pylons and the central hull area, / back of the ship, they're all vents of some kind. It's good to see. Now, the ship does have some additional weapon beyond those standard 14 phaser strips. It has 2 high output phaser points on the pylons. These are I would say very clearly high output phaser points. I would call them dual beam emitters, as that is where the dual beams fire from. However, I'm inclined to also joke and call them quad beam emitters due to their design featuring 2 emitters within one singular point. You could call it a twin emitter, so 2 twin emitter arrays, perhaps for a more heavily charged output when required. And at first I thought on the pylons these might be forms of mega phasers similar to the Miranda, but I've come to realise that they're more likely probe launchers or high penetration sensory points, as this ship will require those. Final thing to judge on is its torpedoes. Now, this had me laughing a bit. See, when I look at this ship, the first thing I noticed was it's not symmetrical. On one side, we have a shuttle bay. On the other side, we have 2 torpedo launchers. So 2 aft launchers. Head towards the back. So I head towards the front. And you then have these 2. You could call them beam emitters. I'm inclined to call them beam emitters due to that design. But they may also be torpedo launchers. So I'm going to go a bit jokingly and say that they are some manner of torpedo slash beam emitter that focuses on the idea of firing a high charged torpedo rather than your standard torpedo. And that's why they're glowing like that. It's basically a standard high yield launcher without having to engage high yield. As we all know, high yield takes time to fire. So you've got 2 standard torpedo launchers at the back and 2 special ones at the front. I can live with that. But speaking of going from weapons, bearing in mind that we have now just defined this ship to have, what is it, 16 forms of beam weapon and 4 forms of torpedo launcher, which is it's modest in its armament. This ship has got 2, from what I can tell of, 2 shuttle bays. The interesting thing for me though is I want to know how this works. As we look down on the top profile, we can see that you've got the landing pad for the shuttle bay on the sort of outer ring hull. And it's only on one side, so it's probably docked in there. And I imagine it to be relatively small. I don't imagine it to be very large at all. But I started debating with myself, and I'm actually theorizing that they're connected. So you've all sort of got the storage section of the ship at the back of this hull area. There's also a storage section behind the 2 torpedo launchers there, so you'd probably have torpedoes stored that side. And then this central shuttle bay here, which is actually lower, a few decks lower than the first shuttle bay. This is probably the main shuttle bay, and it probably works on a entry and descend sort of mechanism. Shuttles come in, then they are descended and moved out into storage zones, allowing for a larger storage bay that takes up the area of the ship in this lower back end, to give the ship plenty of room for shuttles and runabouts. If I had to guess, I would say she's probably carrying about 8 to 10 variants of shuttle and 2 runabouts, as that would make sense for a ship of her role. Going away from this point, we should probably move on to more about the propulsion of this ship, and that's where I started arguing with myself. You see, this ship obviously has no impulse arrays on the actual main part of the hull. I think you guys know where I'm going with this. we've seen impulse arrays on the nacelles before now, which is exactly what's going on here. The impulse arrays are built into the warp nacelles. I just don't know if I agree with it on the ship. Yes, it somewhat makes sense, seeing as her design is very robust, I would say. Pardon me. But I feel like it's caused the nacelle to be far too big and bulbous. Having said that, we have got certain ships, such as in Star Trek Beyond, there is that very lovely pre-Warp 5 ship that has nacelles the same size as its main hull. I guess this is kind of similar. The Oberth has warp nacelles the same size as its main saucer. The Geneva class has warp nacelles similar size to its saucer. But this ship is so thin and so small that it seems weird that they're so big. The only thing I can assume is that they're not actually warp nacelles as you would standardly think of them. Let me explain. I believe this warp nacelle is actually elongated and broken into 3 segments. Starting at the back, you can see this sort of cut-off point on the pinstriping. I imagine where that pinstriping cuts off, there specifically, that hopefully I've now sort of marked out for you, that is the impulse drive. The whole impulse system is working from that specific spot. And it is feeded from the main hull into that section, sort of through the middle and not interfering with the warp coil section. The warp coil section is now the main part on screen. Hopefully I've left that nicely marked out so that you can see which section I'm actually talking about. Where you can see the warp coil going along, it's very clearly to me that that is going to be a pure warp coil section. Yes, it's connected almost immediately onto the impulse array, but again, that's not always problematic. Taken from the top view, you can see there is actually a warp coil there along with the pylons. So, although it feeds back pretty far, which is why I've had to forcefully connect it to the impulse array, it's not really that bad of a design point. I think it's pretty good. I do like the way it looks and shapes out there. It's just, now we're going to get into the bit that makes me question on it. You see, I don't think the rest of the forward part of the cell is entirely for the Bazaar collectors. And I don't see why they would have that much storage tanks within the nacelle itself. So I believe the Bazaar collectors, as well as its emitter and storage tanks, all exist in, well, they're now highlighted, very limited forward section of the ship. Oh, sorry, forward section of that nacelle. Leaving a bit of dead space. An area which I'm not exactly sure what is in there. It could simply be that this ship undergoes that much in the way of technological upgrades and updates, as well as refits and part exchanging, that you literally have to have this large bulbous area so as to make it easier to swap out parts. And that's the only thing I can think of with the ship to explain why the nacelles are as large and shaped out as they are. This ship is forever interchanging parts within its nacelles to test new mycelium warp drive and stuff like that. So the nacelles have to be bigger. Or you could potentially explain it away by the fact that the mycelium warp drive, well, the mycelium network generates that much power, as explained in Discovery, that the nacelles have to be bigger in order to store and then bleed off that excess energy. Though I don't know why you wouldn't just scale down the mycelium drive so as not to overload the ship. So yeah, I'm a little questioning on the size of the nacelle. However, we take the size away, and I love the nacelle's design. I think the nacelle looks absolutely stunning. It is a beautiful looking nacelle. I really like the Bastard collectors themselves, as if we're getting nice and close to have a good look at them. You will see that they are actually Discovery period design style, with the 2 secondary micro Bastard collectors and the 1 primary Bastard collector. The shielding looks brilliant. I'm so glad they didn't just use it, make it solid. If they made that solid orange, I'd have hated it. But that simple strip of metal going across it, beautiful. Just that little bit of extra detail has done it wonders. It looks absolutely beautiful to me. I do like the vented shield grilling that's on the side next to the Bastard collector's shielding. And this blue glow that's around it from that point there, just to me emphasizes the point that all this section here is directly collecting matter and charging the entire ship. It is stunning. Such a nice design. I would love to see this nacelle design on other ships as well, so I'm hoping to see something similar to this in future ships. Now, as we break away from the nacelles, on that part of propulsion, we get towards the tail of the ship for a different type of propulsion. More specifically, the warp field stabilizing crystal, which I'm actually going to jokingly call the mycelium field stabilizing crystal, because 1, it's got 2 parts, and 2, we also know that's the intelligence core center. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this intelligence vessel has the ability to launch the intelligence probe, and as such, it would most likely do it from the same standard points as all other intelligence ships have done in the past, being the Scry, Phantom, and Eclipse. They all had their little gate that opened up. I imagine this one either launches its probe from the tail of the ship, or there's some odd manner in which that one opens up and launches it from there. Who knows, it might just drop it out from below. You never know. But yeah, I definitely like the look of the mycelium focusing crystal. I think that is a really nice little cue and a great evolution to the well, the stabilizing crystals or the warp field stabilizer. Now we're going to move over to the last thing I really want to talk about design wise on the ship before we look at Vanity, and that is the bridge itself. A lot of you are probably thinking, well, this ship is big because that bridge is so small. But I have a theory. I don't think the bridge is there. Yes, it would make a lot of sense. It's where the bridge would normally be, right? But if we look at its design, it actually reminds me somewhat of Voyager's design. And then I started thinking more onto other ships. I'm actually in the belief of this ship having a two-stage bridge. It is my theory that the actual bridge is in this lower section here. The windows at the front being the conference room. The bridge is just behind that, and this darker section in the dead center that has been raised up is the intelligence bridge. The bit where everyone goes to have the Pacific high security meetings. So deck 1 isn't the primary bridge, but instead the place where all of intelligent command comes through. Lord knows Section 31 would probably demand something like this exists, so that they are in direct command of the ship, while simultaneously not having to be on the bridge at all times. But that is the last thing I really queued on with this ship. I know some of you probably wanted me to talk about why these winglets look like they were supposed to be empty void space going straight through there, or why on earth they're even there to begin with, because they seem out of place. Personally, I thought about commenting on them properly, but the more I tried to think about them, the more I just went, meh. Oh no, I'm so sorry guys, I totally forgot about the deflector array. We looked at it and I didn't even comment on it. Which is bad, because the deflector array is actually among my favourite parts of this ship. You see, this whole section on the lower hull looks quite... I do like the detailing they're thrown into it, but the deflector, that is magnificent to me. Now, all science ships for Tier 6 and beyond have 2 deflector arrays. Your primary and secondary deflector. Well, all science ships, should I say. This ship has done quite the impressive little thing with that, and I'm pretty sure you guys can see it, but I'm not sure if you pegged onto it instantaneously. Both deflectors are there. So from what I've noticed, you've got a sort of older style copperish deflector behind the newer style blue deflector. Essentially, the blue deflector has been extended forwards, and then you got this old copperish one, similar to Sovereign, I guess, sitting back behind it. And that there, I absolutely adore that design cue. And it's also so slimmed out and so fixtured together, it's not a vulnerable point. And a lot of ships, that would be a vulnerability. The deflector is a high vulnerability spot, but on this ship, it is so far from it. And also, you can tell from its design and shape that it has got the quantum slipstream drive that you'd expect to be seeing well and truly thought about and built into the ship's design. Love it. Thank you, STO, you really thought that deflector through. To whoever built this ship or designed this ship, sorry, I keep forgetting the names of these people. One day, I'm going to bother to keep this stuff recorded to the side of me. The artist that designed and built this ship, you're a legend. You really did think this ship through, and I love it. I might not like this ship as far as a science vessel goes, but visually speaking, though it was a ship I never really cared to see, I'm glad we got it. Let's get on to visuals before I drive you guys crazy. No, I don't want to travel the Fleet Spire. Go away. Now, as per request, I will be stating all visuals we look at as we go. And so we're starting off with the Discovery Vanity Shield. Now, Discovery Vanity Shield adds quite a nice little touch to this ship. It works better on its counterpart, but as you can see, it's quite the nice little touch on this ship, and I do think the Discovery Vanity Shield looks pretty damn good. I'm not too keen on deflector under this situation, but I love how the facades look a little bit more refined, and the whole saucer section just looks more alive to me. Also, torpedoes. They don't have the same... There's plenty of other ships. The George O class is a good example, where the torpedo sections are a little bit broken up due to this visual. I like on this ship how it's not, and that's a nice thing to see. Moving over, we will go now to the Terran, or the Emperor's Vanity Shield, which is basically a dark aesthetic Discovery. However, as you will see, it's like the intelligence hull type, as far as the pinstriping goes, but gives us beautiful yellow nacelles, yellow warp coils, and a nice dark Aztecing plate. I love it I love it a lot. We call it Aztecing, I like to call it mosaic, just the way it all crimps together. The whole ship here feels more tough and ready to me as a Terran ship. Deflector is very beautiful, I will say that right now. Not very often I go through the vanities from behind, is it? Let's go and turn this into Section 31 Vanity Shield. So, essentially, it's intelligence again. Now, excuse me. There's a few things I like about this. The chief among it is the fact that you get the intelligence warp coils and grilling, but instead of having the high detail plating, you get this smooth plating, which is it's nice. The only issue I have with it is that the intelligence hull actually looks better. And as a result, I'm sort of more keyed into not really using this Vanity Shield, but instead having the intelligence hull type on instead. Just because the intelligence hull type, one, costs you nothing to have, and two, well, it looks a bit better. So I'm sorry there, SOMERVILLE class, but your Section 31 visual is pathetic. Now, we're getting on to some more interesting shield types. This is not a Vanity Shield. This is the Aegis Covariant shield array. If you want one, pick it up from the exchange. It's very damn cheap. Or just make it yourself. Not hard to do. But this one adds simply blue glows to different parts of the ship. Other than that, it doesn't really change anything visually speaking on the ship. The impulse array looks interesting. Yeah, it's safe to say nothing else really changes. The mycelium grid looks a bit better. I'll say that one. Oh. Not bad look on the deflector dish. Time to get assimilated. And we'll get assimilated in somewhat style. So this one is from the Task Force Omega reputation. Yoink, I had to think about that one. Is the Simulated Regenerative Shield Array. Now this one obviously makes it look like your ship has been attacked by the Borg, and you are now becoming one of them. Not necessarily bad if you like the Borg, but I would worry a little bit. What I do like though, and it's going to make me hover a little bit, is how the mycelium grid is now turned green, which I'm not entirely understanding why that has turned green. However, it still has its blue glow. So it's a very nice combination of colours working on there, and as you can see, the closer section to you maintains that green aesthetic, but the rest of it's got a sort of blue-esque feel to it still. And it's a very nice touch as you flop over. Look at that. Swaps again. So it's actually the only... Oh, hang on a second. The outer hull has maintained blue, but the inner hull has taken green. I like it. I also like how the mycelium stabilizer hasn't changed in coloration that much. It's a bluey green now, which again makes me feel like, yep, that is a mycelium stabilizer. And the rest of the ship just looks absolutely stunning with the nanite infestation that has taken over the hull. It's a very beautiful look on this ship. We can one-up this if you like. I don't have the deflector array at the moment, but for those wondering, if you have the Impulse Edition, you will affect little tidbit parts. I like how the nacelle attachment sits underneath. It's actually kind of small, making this ship kind of big. Okay, so is this ship small or big? I feel like when the ship was designed, they couldn't make up their mind what size it was going to be. Continuing on, and we get to the Bajoran Defense Covariant Shield Array. which ironically works on the ship really damn well. Maybe too well. It's quite interesting cues what it has. Not keen on that deflector right now. If you wanted to go with a old, worn and beaten ship look, this would probably be one you could go with. I'm not sure why you'd be going for a beaten up ship look, but hey-o, to each their own. Continuing on, and you get to the Counter Command Covariant Shield, which I believe is from the Undine reputation. And this is probably one of the more fun looking ones. Again, same thing going on with the mycelium array. However, instead of keeping the blue beams on the outer hull, it's actually filled in black. So, okay, that's a thing. Also, I've just realized my big mistake on that bridge. If you look at it, with this one in place, you can see that the bit that I was calling the intelligence bit, there's actually one deck below it before it goes to the bit that I was calling the bridge. So there's actually about 4 decks there between this long window and there. That's about 4 decks. Or that's one deck and it's much larger than it looks. Please tell me that's just one deck, then at least I can say it's 2 or 3. Well, this shield array's helped me see some different things, hasn't it? Oh my word. Oh my. I'm not sure what to say on this ship anymore. Right, let's try and distract myself from that. We'll go to the Delta Alliance Unimatrix Shield. An interesting looking shield type. Now, I've never been overly keen on this shield one. I'm sure you guys have heard me say it plenty of times before. I feel like the green is done so weirdly, it just doesn't fit. It has got quite an interesting touch on the ship, though. The mycelium field generator looks a bit odd, but that's about it. However, I do like the bronze, well, the brownie bronze and the gold trim. It looks alright. It looks alright, I'll give it that. Now, this one. Please, within the Solonay section, the Dyson Regenerative Shields, let's hope this looks good. I'm praying it does because I tend to like these ones. Oh, yes. Fits very well with the ship's design aesthetic, actually. Don't know about you guys, but I am very, happy to see this. We're going to crash, don't mind me. I'm just going to fly down a little bit. Glad to see we're here now. Oh, God, we're still going to crash. Underneath here, we could get a really nice shine and glow of the ship. It's a very nice look. I do like it. The only problem is, the more I'm looking at it, the more I'm starting to dislike it. Now, that's not normally what happens. Normally, it grows on me. Oh. So that was the Solonay Dyson shields. Next up, the Iconian Resilient Shields. Why have I just received some stuff for no apparent reason? Yoink. Right. Oh, Jesus Christ. Some things will never change for me, guys, and this is going to be one of them. I don't like the Iconian Shields. It looks alright on some ships, but as much as the Iconian Shields are great shields to have, visually speaking, I would always have the visuals turned off. Just purely because Me no likey. I'm really glad that SDO gave us the ability to have a Vanity Shield slot, because otherwise I would never use or look at half these shields. Because if I had to put Iconian into here in order to get the visual, yes, you might win. But I can think of a few shield types where if I wanted that visual, I wouldn't be too happy with what I get out of it. Ugh. Side notes aside, now we're going to have some fun. Going temple, guys. And why is it the temple ones always have the longest blasted names? The Lucari Restoration Intuitive Regenerative what? Shield Array. But you gotta give it this. It looks good. Ish. This is gonna be an odd comment from me. But on this ship, I like how those blue fins at the back here, or the fins at the back here, are a very strong blue accent. Gives more life to the ship. Also makes me feel like it's a manta ray. This is so awkward to say with the ship. I don't like ships like this one, which make me consistently question whether I like it or not. It's like 1 second I like it, the next second, not so much. Let's have some more fun, and we're back to the Terran Task Force. Task Force Omega sort of reputation. To take a look at the Mako Resilient Shield Array. See, Makos do it right. The name isn't too stupid long. Oops, I just cloaked the ship. That was unintentional. Well, the ship does look pretty damn good when it's cloaked, doesn't it? So as you can see, the Mako literally just adds this sort of chromed metallic pattern, or metallic hexagon pattern over the entire ship in certain regions. So it's a nice aesthetic change, but at the same time it can look a bit out of place. It's better, it depends on which hull type you've gone with, really. Type 5, this one works really well with. I'm not sure it works great with Type 7, especially on the underside there. Deflectors been unaffected, Basards are unaffected, Impulse Array moderately changed, now like the Aegis. I'm really not sure what I think on the Mako. I do like, however, the fact that Mako has armed up those windows at the front there. Hang on a second. Now you're making me feel like this ship is super small and that the lower windows and the upper windows are all part of one bridge. Stop doing this to me. Because now it feels to me like there is only one bridge on this ship, and it's just that upper straight bit here that's just the bridge. It's just normal. Atypical normal. I can't get a queue on this ship. I know what I'm going to have to do by the end of this video. I'm going to have to go sit next to another ship that we know roughly the size of and go, oh, you are actually big or small. Mother of God. Away from the Mako. Before I go completely crazy, this ship is actually driving me crazy. I do apologise, guys. To the Nakura Crystalline Resilient Shields. Normally one of my favourites, and again, one of my favourites. It looks absolutely stunning on this ship. Wouldn't want to assimilate the ship, but considering I'm using Tetrion weapons on this one, looks really good to me. Also makes it a bit harder to spot the torpedo array. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I think it's a nice look. Okay. Romulan Advanced Prototype Covariant Shields. Well, kind of fitting considering we're getting the Romulan. Well, we have been getting now Romulan ships on Federation and Klingons. I'm just not sure what I think of the green with the white. I think it looked better if I was using the... No, I know it would look better if I was using the intelligence hull type. But this isn't too bad. Upgrade hull type might look good with it as well. It is a nice look, I'll give it that. Next up, Temporal Defense Intuitive Regenerative Shield Array. Temple stuff, why are your names so damn long? Sorry, I'm gonna keep throwing a fit at that, aren't I? Yoink. Not entirely sure, I think. Yeah, there is a lot going on there, but I'm not really sure what I think of it. Intriguing. Yes, yes, really intriguing. Next up, and we move on to the Terran. Okay, Terrans are joining in the fun here. Terran Task Force Covariant Shield Array. And as you'll see, now you see what I mean about the intelligence hull type looking like the Terran Task Force hull type. So yeah, it looks good. Can't deny that, can I? If I say the intelligence hull type looks good, of course this one looks good. Perhaps the little bits of blue of the glow elements are a bit over the top, but still, having the yellow and the blue glowing in the mycelium grid looks pretty damn good. Impulse engine looks interesting. It's a very nice blue. It's a good look on the ship, I'll give it that. I've always got to go here. Dielectric Oscillating Resilient Shields. Is it funny that I don't actually have to read it to know what it says? You know why? I hate it that much. Oh. The only reason I can think to use this shield is if you really want to make it look like your ship has been stripped down and is flying with no hull plating. Always being thrown in a trash can. Always being set on fire. Burn me! Burn me! Don't mind me, I'm just venting some aesthetic dislike of these shields. Finally, something beautiful. The Jem'Hadar Resilient Shields. Everyone's resilient these days. So, of course the purple works well with the blue. That was an obvious one. We didn't even need to go there. I like how the deflector array is so small that it actually only shows the green element of a Jem'Hadar deflector array. She feels pretty upbeat and tough, I will give her that. The final one, possibly the best one here, Riemann Advanced Prototype Covariant Shield Array. And another mouthful. I don't know why, but I always like it when you get these shield arrays. I prefer it with the Riemann Covariant when it changes the colour of the Psi collectors. Now I get that the orange is the aesthetic thing for the Federation, but if you turn these into the cyan/teal or even a blue, to me that would have looked better. However, the teal hexagon bands are not overdone. A common problem with this shield is it can easily be overdone, so it's always either one of my least favourites or one of my absolute favourites. In this situation, this is my favourite shield on this ship. I think she looks absolutely amazing with it, actually. I see we're still having some issues of the void texture where you get these random black spots. Don't know why they've never dealt with that, but hey, I can live with it. I think she looks pretty damn good like this. But we have one last thing to question, don't we? We need to get a size comparison. Let's see if I can't. Odyssey Dreadnought, that'll do me. Oh, okay. Well, in case you needed your question answering, she's relatively small. In fact, she's very small. The question has been answered. Is she a big ship? No. She's a tiny little trucker. My gate. Not what I was expecting. Well. That would definitely say, just look up at the Odyssey's bridge. This whole section here is the bridge. That is now definitely confirmed. So we've got a very large, long bridge across the top here. And from that point onwards, this ship is... Yep, we know she's small now. Though she does have slightly large beam emitters. You can tell that by looking at the Odyssey. But then again, the Odyssey has refined emitters. So that would make some sense. Screw you and your red badging. I want the red badging. Well, guys, I hope you found this enlightening. Lord knows that I certainly have. And, well, let me know what you think of this ship. Be sure to comment below what you think of this ship. Tell me what you like, dislike, what you might even change. Personally, I score this ship a 9 out of 10 for its design because I just think it is a stunning and well thought out ship. It's not the most visually beautiful, but she gets away from not being that purely because everything about her has been very well thought out and I like it as a result. Now if you guys want to get in a conversation with me, you can also check out the description below. This will give you the ability to join my Discord. Head on over to Discord and you'll know when I'm live streaming and also be able to have a conversation with the rest of the crew and myself. Also, and I must say this right now, a huge thank you to you, specifically for watching all the way to the end of this video. And to my Patreons, again, a big thank you. The support you guys are showing me, it means a lot. Hope to see you next time, and I hope this video has been helpful to you. Ciao for now. Live long and prosper.